Send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
A very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. My name is Edmond. Spectrum tonight.
Which is the highest administrative organ, announced today the closure of the university. Students reacted by petitioning Parliament, giving government an ultimatum to open the university by Monday. So we'll be looking at that issue. We shall also be looking at the demand for a salary increment by primary school teachers who also come to Parliament this week. We look at the Mavira debate, a caucus of 18 people, 18 members of Parliament, caucus within the caucus, apparently revisited President Museveni at his country home in Rwakajara. We'll look at that. And we also try to explore a possible generation clash within the NRM. We hear that there's growing concern within the party that the old guard and the young tucks are headed for a clash. Most of the MPs elected on the NRM ticket are young people, viewed as rebellious to positions taken by the NRM caucus. So we'll be looking at that issue with our guests tonight. Honorable Henry Musasizi, Member of Parliament for Rubanda East, also a member of the NRM party. You're most welcome, Honorable Musasizi.
Thank you, Edmond, and good evening to listeners.
We also have, we expect to be joined by Honorable Arinaitwe Rwakajara, workers' representative. We also have right now with us the studio, Mr. Asuman, Basalirwa, JEEMA President, also a former Guild President at Makeri. You're most welcome, Mr. Basalirwa. I'll start with you, Asuman. The university has been closed. What is your view? Has the government handled it well? Did the teachers ask for the lecturers ask for too much? What should have been done? That's not been done.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the problem is very long has become this desire for salary increments and welfare, better welfare has now become an universal institution. But I think we need to look at the background and the historical context for these demands. Recently, National Council for Higher Education did conduct a research, and in that research it was discovered that one, higher education is on demand, and because it is on demand, universities have been tempted to take in more students, more than the resources they have, and that has been partly government policy. So there is now increased burden on the limited resources, the facilities, and yet government is not facilitating its own institutions. So that one becomes problem number one. Number two, over time, the unit cost of training a student in various courses has increased. You know, in the research by National Council for Education, a course like medicine will take about 10 million shillings a year, and 40 or 50 million shillings for the duration of the course. Now, what we call what they used to call flat courses or non-professional courses was about 4 million shillings a semester. A year, which would take you to about 12 million shillings for the duration of the course. So you discover that the unit cost has increased, demand for higher education has also increased. Now, what would logically be done would be for government to increase funding of higher institutions, public universities, which is not the case. Look at the recent budget speech. About 115 billion shillings was committed to the education sector. Not higher education, but the entire education sector. 115 billion shillings. And this money is going basically to increase free education at A level and also tertiary vocational training. And part of it is going to cater for infrastructure in secondary school, and that nothing has been mentioned about salaries, wages of either teachers or university lecturers from the previous budget. Now, in the budget speech, we also recall that one of the measures that was proposed is an immediate forensic audit on salaries and wages of government servants. no service. Now, how immediate this will be, nobody knows. So, and you're aware that historically, actually since the introduction of the private scheme, private students have actually been subsidizing government students. The amount of money that is running the university now, I would say 80% is coming from the private sponsored students. Government has completely neglected education, and not only at higher education, but education across board, from the grassroots to the top. So I would think that, in my view, the teachers are right to make these demands, and I don't think these are demands made out of the ordinary. This country has a lot of resources. The problem has been management of those resources. Look at, for instance, the cost of public administration. This financial year, the minister told us that they are going to spend 1,500 billion shillings on contribution to local government. 1.5 trillion. Yeah, exactly. Yes. And out of the increase, last year it was 1.4 trillion. Okay.
Yes.
Now, out of that, about 900 billion shillings is going to salaries and wages for districts alone. And we are continuing to create more districts. I'll come to my brother here in Parliament. Because you see, everybody is watching. They look at a professor, somebody looks at a professor earning about 2 million, 3 million gross. Okay?
Yes.
Somebody with a PhD, postdoctoral research and studies. And somebody with A-level or its equivalent in Parliament at the end of the month is earning over 20 million.
14 million on average.
Yeah, okay, average 14 million. And people are watching. So you are not going to tell professors that they cannot earn what they are demanding simply on the pretext that there is no money. Yet there is a category whose money is always there. So, of course, this brings in the debate of a remuneration commission to try and harmonize payments across board. But before that comes, you have this problem here, you have this concern. And I don't know how government is going to contend with that contradiction. That one section of the community, for the MPs, is earning very highly, they have the privilege to determine their salary, and you are saying you cannot find money to give university lecturers and teachers. It's going to be a very big contradiction. So in my view, I think the demands have been long overdue. They are not demands out of the ordinary. This money can be found, and I'm very sure this money is there. If only the measures that were proposed in the budget, only those, if they could be implemented, the 50% cut on adverts, the 30% cut on allowances, seminars and the rest. Unfortunately, it seems it's business as usual. My brother is in Parliament, the vehicles, everybody who is coming to defend their budgets in Parliament, they are talking about vehicles and everything. So it is a contradiction of sorts. So I believe that the money must be found. Now, what I don't, there was also the aspect of the students. The students saying they are giving an ultimatum to the lecturers.
Yes.
I think that is also not correct. As former Village President Makerere and the students activist, I know for sure that a happy lecturer will give more output than a dissatisfied lecturer. So if I was a student or a student leader, I would actually be advocating the cause for the lecturer.
Yes.
Because if they are not facilitating, if they are not happy, they will not give their best. They will begin moonlighting. You will find them spending less time at the university and more time elsewhere. And I think it's not very good. So I would think that the students should back the cause of their lecturer. If the lecturers are on strike, the students should put more pressure on government and the powers that be to ensure that the demands of the lecturers are satisfied.
Okay, we'll look at the primary teachers later specifically, but very briefly, do you think it's fair for the university lecturers to ask for 8 million, from 2 million to 8 million, multiply by 4?
Yeah, as I have said,
300% increase.
As I have said, there is nothing out of the ordinary.
It can be done.
It can be done, and as I said, these lecturers live in this country. They are
No, I'm talking about the switch, automatic switch from one day, 2 million
There
following
is nothing like one day. Edmond, I have said this has been a legendary demand.
So you think
it is not something which has come out. I was at the university about 8 years ago.
It's okay. I think you've been in there. Let's hear from Honorable Musasizi. What's your view from what you've had and say?
First of all, I would like to express my disappointment of what is happening at our great university, Makerere. And when you look back, like Basalirwa said, the problems of Makerere are not starting now. Most of them are inherent. I remember I was in Makerere about 6 years ago, and these strikes you see were happening. And I'm surprised that even now they still continue to happen. But coming to the situation that is there now, I can call it a crisis at the university. The lecturers have got a strong demand, and they have got a strong cause, and they need to be supported. And government needs to take into consideration their demands. But on the other hand, I want also to note that their demands cannot be solved, cannot be addressed within a day. What we need to do is that we need to look at the mechanisms and how much they are demanding. Like they are saying 8 million from 2 million. If you are to do that, I don't know the implications to other votes or other expenditure lines within the Ugandan government. But what the message I would wish to see given to the lecturers is a message of hope by government. We should come out to say that yes, we recognize and appreciate your concerns, and the matter can be looked into. They are demanding for 300% increment. Honestly, this is impossible, considering the current situation and taking into account that the budget has been read. We are now, as Parliament, we are debating the appropriations bill, and it may not be possible for us to look at all the issues within this budget. But still, we can look for a percentage within their demand. We say this year we are giving you this, next year we will give you this percentage, and the other years we will keep increasing until when all your demands have been satisfied. And this connects. This is not only for salaries of lecturers. I believe as Uganda, we need to look at the salary structure within the civil service, because health workers are complaining. The soldiers don't complain, but I know they are suffering. Policemen, the same. Teachers have been on strike for a while. There are civil servants who are complaining that their salaries are low. So what public service needs to do is to look at the salary structure and do possible reforms that will address these issues now and forever. Otherwise, we will continue in this situation, and I can tell you, Edmond and the listeners, that Uganda is going to experience the impacts of these strikes we are witnessing will be there for a long time. Because I'm particularly concerned about the UPE. It has had a number of problems, and when I hear that teachers are not going to teach, considering the problems that are already there, I feel sad, and I pray that as a government we get out and address these issues now and for all. Otherwise, I see a great task ahead of us, and as a country, we need not to sit down. We need to come out and address it so that our people can get happy in the situation.
This is Spectrum on Radio 1 tonight, inside of Parliament, reflecting on the key issues that have dominated debate in the House this week, including the closure of Makerere University, was closed after lecturers went on strike, demanding a 300% pay rise and a fund of 16.7 million shillings in retirement benefits owed to them by NIC, once owned by the government, now privatized to Nigeria IDI. Our guest tonight, Honorable Henry Musasizi, Rubanda East MP from Mp-NRM Party, and Mr. Asuman, Basalirwa, JEEMA President. Former Guild President of Makerere University. Also look at the demand for salary increment by other sector workers. We'll be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Honorable Musasizi, what kind of pay rise will you give them, and how would you face it if you were in charge?
If I was in charge, I would look at the percentages. I would look at the rates. Like now, if we can start with 30%.
Well, someone is asking for 300%. You can't give 30%.
Yes, look at the resource envelope. We may not be able to raise this money now. And a message of hope, like I have said, would be an action of, let's say, 30. Then next financial year, we can look at the envelope, we see how much we can add, until when we get there. Even, well, you know, I take it to be a negotiation. These lecturers are starting at 8 million. Perhaps they are interested in hearing what the government can offer to them. Right. But I believe if we look at this matter without pointing fingers, without attacking each other, but we look at the principle of the matter, we can get to a harmonized position on how this matter can be dealt with. Then before we go to the next item, my former Guild President, Asuman, Basalirwa, has mentioned that members of Parliament earn a lot of money. Yes. But I want to tell the listeners
it's a relative statement. Some people don't think it's a lot.
That members of Parliament
they don't earn
much as the public thinks.
Now
because these are allowances.
Only 14 million shillings.
No,
that's
not 14.
Too much.
14 is not salary of members of Parliament. These are allowances to enable you run your constituency.
Untaxed.
Untaxed.
Okay, talk to us about the closure, the decision to close. Of course, that's debatable. You're saying for maybe it's not too much after one person wants 43 million. Maybe you are right. Let's talk about something else. Was it right for the government to close the university? The council?
My thinking is that government has decided to close the university to prevent the crisis that will come out of this strike. But it is not right, because when you look at the curriculum, these students have a timeline when they started and when they are supposed to finish their courses.
Some of them pay money.
And some of them have made huge payments of money, and some of them are from abroad. So the message we are sending,
it's a negative message.
Yes, the message we are sending to the world is very, very negative.
Very briefly, Asuman, what do you think is going to happen? Very briefly.
Well, I think because of the also
to close the university.
I think the process of reopening the closed institution is a very serious process.
Well, it's already an announcement. For sure.
Yes, not that. It's beyond that. Faculty, departments have to do a lot of sitting, meetings, and we are just in the process. By the way, there are even situations where some process may have been postponed to the next semester. Yes. So I think this is something the University Council should have managed through negotiation and by giving proper together and I think this has not been the worst crisis. We have had more terrible situations in Makerere. Yes. But the university was never closed. So I think it's also an attempt to intimidate, in my view. It's an attempt to intimidate the lecturers. It's an attempt to send a message that after all you are not indispensable.
Right.
And that
They could ask them to reapply for their jobs.
no, that one is impossible.
They have contracts.
The laws are very stringent, and I don't think they can do that. But I think it's more about intimidation.
Okay. Let's talk about the teachers. They come to Parliament saying they want only 100%, not 300%, only 100%, and it's from a very tiny threshold. They have been ordered back to classrooms on Monday. Otherwise, they face sanctions. Where are we going?
One, I think it was also an appropriate statement. And I hope the minister has read the Labor Unions Act. I just hope she has read it. Because this act gives enormous rights and freedom to lecturers, including the right to industrial action.
Talk about teachers now.
Yes, I'm talking about teachers.
Yes.
The right to
Industrial action.
They have the right to collective bargaining.
Yes.
And they can withdraw their labor. And all these actions are not criminal. A teacher or an employee cannot be victimized for withdrawing his or her labor and cannot be victimized for engaging in an industrial action. Actually, in a strike. That's the Labor Unions Act 2006. So I hope the minister was alive to that law when she was making those statements. And I'm very sure if they are implemented, we will be back here. They will be challenged in the court process. And I see teachers being winners. I think, everyone, what government should be doing now is that some of these teachers are young overdue. And it will just be remain for government to really begin looking at some of the demands. The teachers have been trying for a very long time.
They've been promised money next year.
Yes, but you see, this is not the first time. They have been having meetings over and over again. So I think they have reached a level where they can no longer even expect that this time round the promise will be actualized. So I think really government must be more sensitive to the concerns of the people, especially at this time when inflation is 21%. They must be very sensitive.
This is Spectrum on Radio 1. Going for a break, we'll be right back. You'll also be able to call in when we come back. But maybe before we go for the break, Honorable Musasizi, what do you say about the teachers? They starting from a very small threshold, 250,000, they only want 100%.
Thank you. What I can say about the teachers is that it is unfortunate that their demands, that their concerns are not being addressed with appropriate answers. This problem of the teachers' strikes started some months back, and the Committee of Social Services had several discussions with all stakeholders, and they have come up with recommendations and proposals. And one of them is that we look at the possibility of looking around for money to increase the salaries of these teachers. And I believe they have a point, because when you look at the situation they go through, what they tell us, there are some unfortunate statements they make. They tell us that they are educating our children, and their children are not going to school because the money government pays them is not enough. But I don't want this to stop on teachers. The soldiers, police, and all other sectors across the board
should have salary raise.
Yes, we need a review of our salaries we pay to civil servants so that we can have an end to all this crisis we are having.
This is Spectrum. We'll be back after this break. We'll talk about Mavida, the debate that refuses to go away. 18 MPs apparently met the president, the chairman, a caucus within a caucus, some people have said. We'll be back to talk about that. We'll also talk about a generational clash within the Mp-NRM that's apparently brewing between the old men with long beards, with or without, some of them don't have beards, and the young men who speak with sour voices. We'll be back.
Let's show you how to multiply your savings, starting with the cash beneath the mattress to the savings in the bank that aren't making money. Let's turn your savings into somethings with Super Save Reloaded. Super Save Reloaded brings you savings and investment accounts which offer you a sure and predictable way to multiply your savings.